It's important that you watch this video before you start putting on the AFL or Leviton connectors. There's a couple things I've found out in my experimentation and my working with these things that I realized I had been inadvertently left out of the main video for the connectors. Everything in that video is accurate. However, there are a couple of issues you might run into, and I want to show you what those are and how to potentially correct them. So the first thing that you're going to do is when you get your connector out of its bag, like this, particularly I found this with the SC ones, the Sam Charlies, the connector isn't fully seated into the wedge adapter. This happens through shipping and things like that. So what you want to do is take your two fingers like this, let's do it so you can see it, take two fingers like this and push down hard on the front and the back. Don't squeeze the sides. Front and back, push down hard. That's going to seat it into the wedge adapter, which is this thing here. Now when we plug this into our laser, we're going to see that, we should anyway, you see that this window number 1 is lit up. That's what's important. This window number 1, the first little window there. That's what's important for us to know. And if we get that one lit up without the other ones lit up, that's good, because that generally means that it's fully seated. Now I'm getting ready. I've already stripped this fiber off camera. And I terminated the other end, and I'm going to clean the fiber here, and I'm going to cleave it with my cleaver. So I need in your kit comes a set of instructions. It looks like this, and you look here for cleave lengths for 900 micron buffered fiber. That's what we're doing. The cleave length is 10 millimeters. They say 10.5 millimeters. I'm going to tell you it's 11. And they say the mark length, this is a mark you put on the jacket, the mark length is 15.5 millimeters. Let's call it 5/8 of an inch, because that's what it is. You'll have these instructions in your kit. So now I'm going to take this fiber and I'm going to lay it into my cleaver, and I'm going to get it so it's laying flat the way it should, and I'm going to set it for 11 millimeters right there. And now I'm going to cleave the fiber, and the fiber is cleaved. Now we got our cleaved fiber in. We put our cleaver away for the moment. Now here is the second trick. The second trick is you need to mark the jacket on here at 5/8 of an inch. I'm using my Leatherman tool here. Now this is a rough estimate, but it's roughly 5/8 of an inch. Now, the reason you put this mark on the fiber is so that you will know when it is fully inserted, because sometimes the fiber doesn't fully insert, and if you don't fully insert the fiber, it ain't going to work. So now, we take our fiber, we've got our connector here, we press down on the connector and snapped it in, and now we're going to start fishing our fiber into the end of the connector. Now right at this point here, when you're sliding the fiber into the connector, you should feel no friction and no stop. It should just go until you get to the mark. The mark tells you, and then you'll feel it stop, and you'll say, yep, I got it, and then this light is going to start doing things. But in many cases, if the connector is not fully seated into the wedge, it'll stop right about here. And you'll think, well, gee, I must have got there. I must have it done. No, you don't. Okay? And if you squeeze the wedge to activate the connector, to activate the clamping, you've ruined the connector and you just threw away $8. So don't do that. Mark your fiber 5/8 of an inch back from the end of the jacket, and then you slide it all the way in. Now, if you look at the window there, you see that this window number 1 is what we're looking at. And as I rotate the fiber around a little bit, you'll see that it gets brightened, it brightens and it dims, okay? Now what we're looking for is for it to be as dim as possible. Sometimes it will go all the way out, sometimes it will not. This one appears like it doesn't want to go all the way out. That's okay. We're going to snap it. Look at the light coming through here, okay? And then we're going to take our boot and we're going to slide it up here. And we find our dust cap, and we have a completed connector. Now what we're going to do is test it real fast here. To test it, we're using this thing. This is a ThisConnector light source, and I've got my meter, same meter you've got in your kit. I'm going to read the light power coming out of the meter, out of the light source right now. I'm going to read it at 1300 nanometers because that's what it does. It's putting out negative 21.26 dBm, decibels reference to 1 milliwatt. Okay, good enough. Now I'm going to take that, I'm going to add this adapter here, and I'm going to take my one-click cleaner, and I'm going to clean this end. And I'm going to clean this end. And we were at 21.6 and now we're at 22.0. So our set of connectors has about 0.4 of a dB loss. Let's check that one more time. We disconnect what we just built. We hook this into the meter directly, and you're reading 21.2. So you're reading 21.2, right? Now, when we hook our connector up to it, we're reading 21.9. So our connectors have about 0.7 of a dB of loss, which is within industry standards, perfectly acceptable. So the keys here, before you do the other connector stuff, is this. Make sure that you've got the connector fully seated into the wedge. Fully seated. Push down hard on that thing. Don't squeeze the sides. From the top, from the back and the front, push down hard. And you'll hear it click. You'll hear it click and you'll say, yeah, okay, I got it, right? The other thing is to make sure that you mark after you've done your cleave, that you mark your fiber, the jacket, at 5/8 of an inch from the end of the jacket where the glass sticks out, so that you have a visual indication that you have completed the insertion of the fiber. But remember, it's just a visual indicator. The real indicator is when it touches and you feel it. And it shouldn't be a high pressure thing. It should be just a slide in, you feel it stop, and then you look at that window. And as that window dims, then you're in good shape. Okay? So now you can watch the video about the connectors.